if you're a highly intentional person, you probably don't just accept what the public school system has to offer. We're going to talk about why we homeschool, why it's the perfect solution for us, and why it might just be the perfect thing for your family, whether you know it yet or not. I'm Jason, and this is my wife of 23 years, Tina, and she does the bulk of the work, and so it was mainly her decision to do this, but I'll let her explain why she got the idea in the first place.
Okay, well, it was kind of out of necessity, honestly. When our daughter was just barely 6 years old, she was a couple months into kindergarten, and she got so stressed out that she was bringing her lunches home without even a bite taken out of them. And so I was concerned, but then she got to the point where she was too stressed out to even eat dinner either. And so obviously that kind of stress wasn't good for her, and the obvious solution was pulling her out of school and teaching her at home. And it was funny how with you, your reaction was not good. You did not want to do it.
No, growing up, the only people that I knew that were homeschooled were weird. They were strange people. And you might have known some growing up as well. And yeah, there was something off about them, and I didn't want my kids to be weird.
Yeah, so you said, okay, you can try it. Now, and it's funny because now he's the biggest advocate. He'll tell everybody they should homeschool. And I am more like, well, maybe it wouldn't be great for them.
Right. Yeah, well, first, when it actually clicked, I realized, why are we taking this little girl who we have raised for her first 5 years? We have taught her everything that she knows, and she was a very competent, capable little kid. She read very well. She could do lots of things that other kids her age couldn't do. And she wanted to be at home with her mom. Why are we sending her off? Because actually, we didn't really explain that. It was a spectacle taking her. It got to the point where one of the counselors met us at the door. We walked to school. It was really close to where we lived, but they would meet us at the door to take her the rest of the way into the classroom, because when we took her there, she would literally hold on to the door frame, and we would have to pry her little hands off of that door frame to take her into class. And it just made sense that we shouldn't be doing this. Why? There's no reason to. So yeah, I am the biggest proponent of homeschooling now, but Tina's right. A lot of people, they don't have the right mindset to be effective at homeschooling, because we know there are a lot of people that abuse the homeschooling system. And they don't do a good job, but at the same time, people who are doing it right, I think there's no comparison.
Yeah, so if you're the type of person who says I can or I'll try to a lot, homeschooling is great. If you don't put an iPad in front of your kids all the time to entertain them, if you're actively engaged with your children and you don't use I can't. Like when people come up to me and they say, oh, I could never, and I didn't even ask them. I'm not trying to tell them they should homeschool, but they'll come up to me.
Oh, I could never do that.
I could never do that. I can't get my kids to listen to them. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Because if you don't feel like you can do anything, you're not going to do it. You're not going to try.
And you sometimes get the impression that they don't want to spend that much time with their kids. And then to think about it, but some teacher who has 29 other kids to deal with, they want to be spending time with your kid. So that doesn't make sense to me, when you think about it that way.
And the kind of people that celebrate summer break, like, oh yeah, I'm getting rid of my kid, or no, they celebrate going back to school, and they get upset about summer break. That's like, I would never encourage them to homeschool. They obviously don't like their kids that much.
Well, the thing is, you have to acknowledge that some people like their kids more than others, right? I mean, you cannot disagree with that. We can see how some kids are treated in their families. And I would have to say that I think, in general, homeschoolers like their kids more. And the reason for that is it's not because they like them so they decide to homeschool them. I think it's because we homeschool, we like our kids more. Because what I tell people all the time is, my kids don't act like other people's kids.
Yeah.
They really don't. They're not perfect, and they have their moments, and Yeah, it can be embarrassing in public sometimes, but in general, they don't act like other people's kids. They don't pick up those bad habits, those bad behaviors that they learn from other kids at school, you know. And because I spend so much time with them, I teach them how to do things. They're interesting kids. I take them traveling. Fitness is really important in our family. We exercise a lot. We do scripture study nearly every weekday morning at 9:30. And we wouldn't have time to do that if we had to send them to school. My kids build things, we would feel very rushed, right? Yeah. They build things, they can fix things, they do chores, and all that stuff makes me like them more. I like being around my kids.
Yeah. Well, and like the innocence too. Like I don't know if I could talk about it without crying, but
okay. All right, I'm going to get emotional.
So, I mean, our little girls stayed little girls,
They did,
you know,
yeah.
and they were playing dress up, they played with dolls, they were just so innocent. They didn't have crushes on all the celebrities that I would see other people do.
They didn't get into that K-pop nonsense, those feminine boys, no good.
Yeah, and also when our oldest was asked to speak in church in front of a couple hundred people a few years ago, she was what would you say, like 16, 17?
Yeah,
and
15, 16.
Yeah, and Jason asked, are you nervous?
Well, I asked her a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And she was, yeah.
She was like, no. And then eventually she was like, why? Why are you asking me that?
Asking me that? Yeah.
And we realized that it's kind of a social construct that you get nervous speaking in front of people because, you know, she wasn't around people who were like, oh, why are you wearing that? And why are you...
She didn't learn to be self-conscious.
Yeah.
She has always been herself, and she's an amazing girl. We just love her because she is herself. She has never had to change to try to fit in with a group or anything like that.
Yeah. And something I've noticed about kids that go to public school is when you see them in a public bathroom, they're like, oh my gosh, my hair's so ugly, I look so bad. Oh no, mine is worse, I'm uglier, you know, like they're just they enjoy feeling bad about themselves. And also another criticism, I was just thinking that people always think our kids don't know how to socialize, but what is the difference when you see a group of public school kids, whether they're at like a school bus stop or whatever, even I'm sorry to say, but at some church activities, when you see some public school kids, they're on their phones, even when they're right next to you. Yeah. But when you go to a homeschool activity, 9 times out of 10, like, I mean, I've never even seen it where the kids are on their phones rather than interacting, you know.
And that's a big one that people will always bring up when you homeschool. Oh, what about socialization? Okay, first of all, I don't want my kids interacting with a lot of other public school kids anyway, right? So I think we're better off there. But they know how to socialize beyond their grade group, right? When you're in school, it's always about what grade are you in and what grade are your friends in. And they can move up and down in grades, and they do it all the time. When you see kids at public school or homeschool activities, they're interacting with a wide range of kids. There's no exclusivity there. And with adults, they know how to talk and act with adults.
Yeah, we get a lot of compliments about that oh, your kids are so eloquent. They just speak so well with me because they're not used to. Yeah. But I mean, I remember growing up, when my parents would take us to places, you know, like their friends' houses that had kids that were like 2 years older than me or 1 year older, like I felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt so embarrassed and like, oh, I don't want to get in their way.
I'm just a 7th grader. Kind of thing. Oh, here's a good story about what we experienced right before we pulled our daughter out. She went to kindergarten for half a year, and we pulled her out at winter break. And go ahead and explain why.
Yeah. So Jason actually got stationed in New York, right? Like we started
way upstate New York.
Yeah, way upstate New York. So she had done like a month in Nebraska, and then when I went to sign her up for school in New York for kindergarten, there was this creepy looking guy. Like our kids would say he had school shooter vibes. So he had long dark hair, priest collar with an upside down crucifix, long black trench coat, and I just got a really scary feeling from him.
Real quick, people like to say, oh, you shouldn't judge people on how they dress. This person knew what type of image they were looking for.
They
wanted to be judged on how they were dressed. So we did that.
Yeah, so I kind of asked some school administrators about him, you know, because it was a buzz-in kind of school. And I was like, what is this guy doing wandering the hallways? And she was like, oh, that's actually one of our best parents. His son is going to be in your daughter's class. And then another administrator told me, oh, look at the news. That guy has already made some trouble because they were saying this gratitude poem in the mornings, and he thought it was too much like prayer.
I should try to find that clip.
Yeah.
So he was a self-proclaimed Satanist. And he said, we're Satanists and we don't try to force our belief on everybody or something like that, right?
Yeah, so he had already made the news just a few weeks into school. And so we realized that everything that guy, well, first of all, that guy has access to our child.
Right.
And second of all, everything that he's teaching his child is now has a window into our home, you know, like it's in the classroom and can.
Yeah, so how other kids are influenced, that influence can affect your own kids and it comes into your home, right? And realizing that was just, that helped make the decision for us.
Yeah, because we're very careful about what we teach our children at
what
home, what kind of media.
Right.
You know, at that time we had a 30-minute electronics time limit. Every day, and then they have exposure to all these random people.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense you have all these rules and these, protections in place in your home, and then you just send them off into the world, essentially, right? Yeah. Teachers are good people, man, bless them for what they do, but nobody's going to love your kids as much as you do. Nobody has as much vested in them as much as you do, right? So you have the most incentive to be the one who cares for and educates your kid, right? And with that, you have to think about what your priorities are. Like, what's the end goal? A lot of parents, it seems like they just want their kids to get into a good college, right? Oh, I just want them to get into a good college. And everything that they do leads up to that point of getting into a good college or an Ivy League school, right? But then what? What after that? So, at least for me, I can say what I want is for my kids to grow up to be the kind of adults that I want to be around, and I want them to want to be around me. And it's not just that easy, though. It sounds a little too simple, because I have very high expectations of my kids, right? And if my kids are not performing at their potential, they're not going to feel comfortable around me because they know I have expectations for them. And I'm like, oh, that sounds so mean. He doesn't love his kids. Of course, I love my kids unconditionally, but liking and loving are two different things, right? If my kids, every time I see their name pop on by my phone and I think they're going to ask me for money, well, then I don't want to spend time with my kids, right? So I'm raising the kind of kids that are going to have, I guess, that we're going to have that kind of relationship where they know that they need to be responsible for themselves, right? And so that is our objective. That's why I spend so much time, for one, exercising with them, right? I make them run, they do pull-ups, and they actually enjoy it. I say make them, but, they push back sometimes.
They voluntarily do it.
They do it. Yeah.
But, and for me, it's that I want them to be happy and confident and capable and well-rounded. And
which they'll really only be those things if they're living up to their potential.
Yeah, and there's time in the day to help them to become well-rounded too. If they show an interest in something, we can take them and find somebody to help them.
It's not all just hitting the books, right? Like, I don't care if my kids memorize the periodic table. What a waste of time. If they want to be a chemist, then they will take that interest and they'll memorize that, right? They don't need to know that stuff if they don't have an interest in it. They need to be aware that it exists, but they don't need to take a test on that kind of thing, right? So academics, so our oldest is 21 years old now. She's in university.
A good school. And our 19-year-old son, while he was in high school, he was able to take 2 college classes, he would drive to them, and he did well. And
yeah, you're fine.
So,
So, I know from my own experience, I didn't take very high level classes in high school at all, but then when I decided I wanted to go to college, it wasn't that big a deal, right? So, it's just, to us, it's not, the academics are not that important. If they want to go to college, go to a good school, they still have that option. They may have to take remedial classes, but their character is what we are focusing on. And schools do not really build character, at least to the standard that we expect.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you have good character and if you know how to push yourself, you're going to get through. But if you're like beaten down and put into a box and feel like you can't.
Right. Well, that's the other thing that people will say, that, oh, you're not exposing them to the world. Well, why would we want to do that at such a young age? Why would we not want to keep them in the nest and shelter them? Yes, shelter them. Why not? Why not build up their confidence and build them up as a person before we push them out into the world? Right?
Yeah.
They're not losing anything because they didn't get to experience being bullied in second grade. That's not a loss.
Oh my gosh, I almost started crying one time when this mom she had this cute little 5-year-old girl. And she was talking about how she was going to have her ride the school bus. And she was like, I just hope that everything we've taught her, like she holds on to everything we've taught her, and she's a good influence.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness, like her brain isn't going to be finished being developed for another 20 years.
We hope she's okay, but we're going to hand her over to people and just hope that she's okay. Well, that's the other point too, is with my schedule, having been in the military and not working a normal 9 to 5 all the time, I got to spend time with my kids. Whenever I was off, they were home. Even right now, I work for the airlines. I don't work a regular 9 to 5. And so my kids are always home. I always get to spend time with them. And because of that, we get to travel. We get to travel during
the off season.
During the off season, And what was it that somebody asked you the other day? We had gone to Italy and Greece, and they asked you about.
Have you started? Because it was like the beginning of the school year. Yeah. We took a cruise to Europe, and they were like, "Did you start school yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, we went to
Pompeii. We saw the Roman Colosseum." And yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, we started school. Don't worry, we got it covered. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they learned a little bit more actually being at Pompeii than reading about it.
Exactly. So those are some of the reasons that we homeschool. I could go on talking about this forever. I have absolutely zero regrets. I wish that she had never even been exposed to kindergarten, to be honest with you.
But at the same time, if we hadn't, we would never know.
That's true.
Like sometimes you have to go down the wrong road to know that the right road is the right road.
Sure, yeah. So, but otherwise, with all the kids being homeschooled, I mean, don't get me wrong, they've pushed back a little bit. There have been some times where they didn't, at least said they didn't enjoy being homeschooled, but it's usually over something specific that, they got irritated with or whatever. But
your kids are going to have complaints no matter what. Like you can't make them 100% happy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, just one final point, I promise. A lot of parenting experts, when they talk about building resilient, capable adults, they talk about the importance of family chores, right? That they can know how to work and accomplish a task working with their family. Kids these days are so overscheduled that they don't have time to do that kind of stuff. And that's the most important thing. So if you're going to take from anything, take away from public school and have your kids in your home more so they can learn things that are really going to matter when they grow up. And you can encourage them to read the books. Whenever I read a good book, I pass it on to my teenagers and they read it. That's the freedom that we have with our curriculum. We can teach them the things that we think are important. Okay, that's all I got. I'm going to let them go now. So you got anything to finish with?
No, I was just going to say also along with that, like our kids, and I've noticed a trend with homeschool kids they're trusted more. Like our kids from a young age, like chop vegetables with knives and use potato peelers and that kind of thing. They use hot glue guns and they're just capable because we have more time to, I guess, work with them and
They
trust
use
them
saws and drills. Yeah, exactly, because we're able to teach them how to do that stuff.
safely.
Yeah, and then it ends up working out in our favor because they end up actually helping around the house.
Tonight the boys made the meatballs for Swedish meatballs, and our daughter made the salad, and it all works.
Well, we just watched TV, right?
Oh, we didn't watch TV. I was doing important things.
Yeah, that's all we got. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought, we'd really love to hear what you have to say, so please leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.